In response to the alarming escalation in xenophobia and bigotry resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Asian Pacific Planning and Policy Council, Chinese Affirmative Action, and the Asian American Studies Department of San Francisco State University launched the Stop AAPI Hate Reporting Center on March 19th of 2020. The center tracks and responds to incidents of hate, violence, harassment, discrimination, shunning, and/or child bullying against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States. AAPI stands for, of course, Asian American and Pacific Islanders. At stopaapihate.org, you can find out more information on this incredible organization and how they're making a change in our world. Their approach recognizes that in order to effectively address anti-Asian racism, we must all work to end all forms of structural racism leveled at Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color. StopAAPIHate.org hopes to serve as the leading aggregator of anti-Asian hate incidents. They also want to offer multilingual resources for impacted community members, provide technical assistance from rapid response to preventative measures, support community-based safety measures and restorative justice efforts, and advocate for local, state, and national policies that reinforce human rights and civil protections. And you can get involved too. It's really easy to do. Just visit stopaapihate.org and you can donate directly to the cause. And you can follow them on social media at stopaapihate, and you can report a crime directly from their website. So if you have a chance, log on, please, to stopaapihate.org. It's amazing. You can go on there. If you see any kind of discrimination, if you see any kind of harassment, any kind of bullying against the Asian American or Pacific Islander community, you can go to stopaapihate.org and report the incident there. There's also ways for you to get involved in your own local community, as well as a way to donate directly to the cause. So when you get a moment, please go over to their website, check them out, follow them on social. That's stopaapihate.org. And now it's time for your gay history lesson. That's right. This week, we are back in the closet to teach you another gay history lesson. I'm in a gay romper with a gay pride sash, and I'm wearing a parade hat, an actual marching band parade hat right now, because we are discussing the very first ever pride parade. How did it start? Where was it? How did it all happen? So I'm going to tell you all about the very first pride parade ever. Okay, so stay tuned real quick for that. You know, pride parades and festivals are huge outdoor celebrations celebrating the LGBTQAI plus social and self-acceptance achievements, legal rights, and of course, our total pride. But the events also at times serve as demonstrations for LGBTQAI plus legal rights. And most pride events actually occur annually. It's around June to commemorate the 1969 Stonewall riots in New York, which we'll be covering on next week's podcast. So you'll have to tune in for that. And the parade seeks to create community and honor the history of the movement. So back in 1970, a while back in 1970, pride and protest marches were held in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York City, and San Francisco. And they were all around the first anniversary of Stonewall, the Stonewall riots. The events became annual and grew internationally. And in 2019, New York and the world celebrated the largest international pride celebration in history, with 5 million attending in Manhattan alone. But how did all that start? Well, back in 1965, the gay rights protest movement was visible at the annual reminder pickets. These gay rights groups held protests at the United Nations and the White House in 1965, but it wasn't until early one morning on Saturday, June 28, 1969, that LGBTQ people rioted following a police raid on the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village neighborhood of Lower Manhattan. This is in New York City. The Stonewall Inn was and is a gay bar, and it still exists today, actually. But you know, police came in and they raided the place just for being gay. They arrested people. And so people were outraged. And so they rioted. Okay. Then the very next year, on Saturday, June 27th, in 1970, the Chicago Gay Liberation organized a march from Washington Square Park that would end at the city's Civic Center. June 27th was chosen because of the Stonewall events that began on the last Saturday of June, and because organizers were smart. I mean, us gays, we're pretty smart. So they knew Saturday was going to have a ton of shoppers out on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. So that was the day to do it. The West Coast of the United States saw a march in San Francisco on June 27th, 1970, and a march in Los Angeles on June 28th, the very next day of the same year, 1970. And in the 80s, there was a cultural shift in the gay movement. Activists of less radical nature began to take over the march committees in different cities, and they dropped the word gay liberation, and they dropped the word gay freedom, and they started replacing it with gay pride, which is what we use today. And many of the pride parades today still have at least some of the original political and activist character. And some are dedicated to remembering the victims of HIV and AIDS and anti-LGBTQAI plus violence. Pride parades are incredible. It's not just for gays. Everybody goes there, including families. And it's always fun. I know this year is going to be a little tricky. Last year, pride parades were canceled because of COVID. This year, it's probably going to be very close. So they may get bumped back towards the end of the year, or they may just happen in 2022. But the thing is, you should celebrate pride regardless. But if you have a chance to go to a parade, go. They're amazing. What I love about them is, first of all, you see a ton of different types of amazing costumes. There's glitter everywhere, amazing floats with dancers and over the top, decorations. But what I really love seeing is I love seeing all the allies that are there to support the LGBTQAI plus movement. That's my favorite part. I mean, I'm there with all my gay friends, but to see these other families coming out that are coming out to support our community and show their support is actually one of the best parts of the Pride Parade. Some people go to the Pride Parade, I'm not going to lie, and get blitzed and have the time of their lives. Some people go for the parade and keep it more calm. Some people do the brunch beforehand. However you do it is up to you, but I say go, and go in the most gay outfit you can. Pride parades are incredible. So I hope you do get to go at some point. And that's the initial history of the Pride Parade. But if you join us next week on the podcast, we are going to give you another gay history lesson. And this is where we're going to discuss the Stonewall riots. Okay. Listen, and you may learn something new. All right. And so that is this week's gay history, the very first Pride Parade. Yes. All right, guys. Well, this is the official close of episode 2 of the Out of the Closet podcast / vodcast. Thank you all so much for listening and or watching. I really do appreciate your time and your support. I want to thank all of our guests that joined us today. Thank you, Kelly Ann WINGET of Alternative Wealth Partners, LLC. If you want to get in touch with Kelly Ann, just visit alternativewealthpartners.com, or you can email her at info@alternativewealthpartners.com. Also, a huge shout out and thank you to the Karen Walker, to my Just Jack, the shoe queen, the world-renowned shoe expert, Julianna Hagar. Just keep in mind, you can email Julianna, the shoe queen, directly. Email her here at the show at shoequeen@outoftheclosetpodcast.com. That's shoequeen@outoftheclosetpodcast.com. Email her all of your shoe accessory and or fashion questions, and she'll answer them on the next time she's on next month. Hey, a huge thank you to all of our amazing sponsors. Just so you guys know, they are all gay owned and or gay friendly. And I encourage you to check them all out, please. And you know what? We have listener discounts. That's right. So for a list of all of our sponsors and the listener discounts you can get, just visit outoftheclosetpodcast.com. That's outoftheclosetpodcast.com. And if you're interested in advertising, please visit our website, or you can email me directly, Andrew@outoftheclosetpodcast.com. And you can advertise on this podcast for so cheap, really cheap. I mean, like super cheap. So why don't you email me? All right. For all things Out of the Closet podcast and to see videos from today's show, log on to the outoftheclosetpodcast.com website, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching for Out of the Closet Podcast with me, your host, Andrew Pettke. That's PETTKE. And you can follow and like the show on Insta, Twitter, Facebook, Just use podcast OOTC. That's podcast OOTC. And then join us for next week's podcast, where we will be discussing You Are What You Eat, a gay's guide to healthy eating, with dietitian, chef, and winner of Food Network's Great Food Truck Race, Chef Naveen Hari Prasad. He also happens to be my husband, but we'll get into that. Anyway, we'll go over some dieting do's and don'ts. Plus, we'll explore some fad diets popular with gay men to see what works and what's just a waste of your time. Plus, we'll take a look at how COVID-19 and the pandemic is affecting neighborhoods, our amazingly colorful neighborhoods with the high density of gay-owned and gay-friendly bars, shops, restaurants, retail, and more. We will tell you how you can support your local neighborhood as restrictions and bans are being lifted across the United States. And we'll highlight the Resource Center of Dallas and the amazing work they do in their community. And of course, gay history, games, fabulous outfits, laughs, and more on the next episode of Out of the Closet with me, your host, Andrew Pettke. It's been awesome. I'm Andrew Pettke. Thank you guys all for listening and or watching. Thank you for spreading the word. If you love this podcast, please tell your friends about it. I really do appreciate it. Just remember, be safe, be proud, and strive to always be the most true version of yourself. Can I get an amen? All right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.